Hello, everyone, and welcome. My name is Nathalie Ferrier, and I'm the gallery director at the Higgins Art Gallery. This event is being recorded. Higgins Art Gallery is here to welcome you during this difficult time of isolation. If you have missed our previous exhibits and events, you will find the videos and the recordings by visiting our website, which is www.capecod.edu/Higgins/. Today's exhibit is called Shoulder to Shoulder. Shoulder to Shoulder is a multimedia group exhibit. It includes paintings, drawings, monoprints, silkscreen art, fiber art, clay art, photos, installation art, bookmaking art, map art, land art, film, music, and poetry. I would like to welcome our participating artists. First, our 4Cs faculty members, Scott Anderson, Mary Canaves, Nathalie Ferrier, Anne Flash, Joe Navas, Sara David Ringler, Doug Ritter, and Vicky Tomeko, and our guest artists, Jane Bloom, Heather Bloom, Tessa D'Agostino, Caroline Dunford, Karen Fish, Todd Hebert, Karen McPherson, Susan Porter, and Sean Robertson. Thank you so much for being part of this event. I will now introduce Professor Sara David Ringler. Welcome, Sara. Sara has been an art professor at 4Cs, teaching drawing, printmaking, and design for 28 years. Sara was also the former Higgins Art Gallery director. Sara, you guessed, Tessa D'Agostino is a former student and a 4Cs alumni. She could not be here with us today, but you are going to introduce Tessa before you start talking about your own work. Welcome, Sara.
Thank you. Thank you, Natalie. I just have to say, I feel like I'm in fantastic company to be in that exhibit. I want to thank you, Natalie, for bringing us all together, but mostly for the programming that you did during this semester. It has been wonderful for the students. It's been wonderful for the community. And to just be able to keep things vibrant in a time of such isolation, I really, really think you're doing a terrific job. Thank you so much.
Well,
and thanks to all the colleagues who are able to share this wonderful exhibition. Thank you. So there's nothing more exciting for an educator than to be able to have a student go on and have a successful career. I think we all have those moments where we connect with students and they say they're going to go on in their education and they're going to study art. And Tessa D'Agostino is a native Cape Codder, and she started out as a dual enrollment student from Barnstable High School. As I remember, it was quite a while ago, she was always this earthen spirit, sort of a sprite from the woods. And she started creating a lot of things that were out of branches and organic materials. And that became her passion. So she responded to this invitation to be a part of this exhibition, and she was very excited. And while during this lockdown over this past 8 months, she set upon the task of creating these very small painted collages that she saw as ways to heal the spirit. And you can see how we all go off in different directions, but for Tessa, it's about healing and light and making connections to the natural world. So this series is the original of the originals. And then she also is selling these online as a way to connect to people, and in a sort of a postcard form, so that you can purchase them and send a little healing spirit to someone in your family, or just hold on to them in some way. So she's a marvelous young lady, and she thinks that people need to follow their own spirit. If you're a student listening to this, she started out with lots of different interests, and she would encourage you to go on and follow your passion and follow your spirit, so that you can connect to the world and connect yourself to the world. So Tessa could not be here, but I am delighted that she is hanging next to my art. And years ago, we had this wonderful experience where we went to an art opening, and my work and Tessa's work were hanging next to each other. So going full circle from the teacher to the student, and now she is sharing her art with you. So we'll look at some of her images, and you can follow Tessa, and she has an online presence under the name of Spiral Cape Cod, and you can follow her and see more of her work.
Thank you, Sara. Do you want to talk now about your own work?
Okay, so who am I? I am very lucky to be able to share what I love, and to be able to do that in front of people who are passionate about art or somewhat interested in art. So to face a classroom of people at the beginning of the semester is always an exciting thing. And I love to see what they accomplish. When I'm not in front of my students, either on a Zoom lesson or at 4Cs, I'm in my studio. And for me, printmaking is magic. I don't always know where I am going. I guess I would say I don't know where I am going. And particularly during this pandemic, it took my daughter coming into the studio to enliven that spirit in me, because I really didn't know where to go during this time. So she was working on one end of the studio, and I was working on the other end of the studio. And I grabbed some of my stencils of figurative forms, and I started cutting out all of these circles. And truly, I was just trying to work out my angst and connect to being a printmaker. So I'm working on a monotype here, and laying down the colors, using a brayer like a brush. And I've got my stencils around. I'm not really sure exactly which ones I'm going to use. I knew that I had to create something that was strong, that had contrast, I think abstractly. So there's a narrative, but it can't be really dissected. And I've got my figures, and I want them to be my presence, but I want people to see them and connect to them. And I knew that I wanted to create something that was turbulent and felt like the dissonance and the chaos that I was dealing with, and I feel a lot of other people were dealing with. An interesting contradiction to Tessa, who goes in a completely different direction. And here I am figuring out where I'm going to place these forms. You'll see that some of them are going to be on an angle, and some of them are falling, and some of them are striving. And it is a different vocabulary to the healing spirit that Tessa is creating. I didn't realize that until I see them side by side. So I guess I'm not really about healing, but I'm dealing with, are we falling? Are we rising? And so there's some titles. I ended up titling this the Corona Circus. And the circus is certainly reflective of the turbulence of the what is going on in the world, and the circus of politics particularly. And the figures are, they're crouched and they're falling. But depending on which figures I reach for, some of them are jumping. And the jumping images were actually based on photographs of my daughter, who did this whole series of these flying, jumping figures. So it's that polarity between places, between the positive and the negative, the falling and the jumping, and the polarities between the emotions, I guess, that I am feeling at this time. And so you're not going to get to see me printing this, but there are some images that I'm going to show you of the finished pieces. And so there's the jumping, not falling in this particular image. And then I took the figure and I cut out all of these viruses out of them. But I consider my work to be very abstract. So this could be any kind of disconnect that one is feeling. And this is all part of the series. I think we're going to go through them. And this one is sort of a Garden of Eden, but it's really not a Garden of Eden. So I call it that. And the figures are going in their separate directions, and these viruses, or whatever you want to see them as, are falling around. And this one is the multitudes, and that could, of course, I leave these things open to your interpretation, but that certainly is the multitudes of loss that we're feeling. And then I had never done this before. I took that figure, which always would stand up straight, and I threw it on an angle, and it's falling, and it's more falling. So we're going to have somebody counteract my vision of the world.
I guess you have Scott who is going to present his work now, and it's going to be very different.
Okay, good. And then we're ending up with this. Every morning I wake up and I ask my husband, "Is it over yet?" And so this is it over? So that is where I am at this point. And but I'm wearing all these different colors, so maybe tomorrow will be a much brighter day. I would love to introduce Scott.